Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm a data-driven digital marketer, and I help small businesses use SEO and content marketing to take advantage of organic channels and grow their business.
What is the perk of being a content marketer and digital marketer?
I love ideas. I love brainstorming ideas. I love talking to people about ideas. That whole process just really fires me up. And then I can take that idea or that, let's just say strategy or goal, and I can use the creative part of me to think of, what kind of materials we can create. And then that analytical part of me looks at, okay, does the data support doing this? What is my data-driven goal? And then that constantly going back and checking to make sure that you're on the right track.
So how does it start? How does someone get to this level where they can open up dashboard or Google Analytics and start to see patterns and pull out ideas? What is a good starting place for someone who's listening to this podcast?
Just do a Google search. And in the Google search, you'll see the amount of queries that are being searched around that term. So you'll know, okay, is there the volume to justify writing a piece about this? You'll definitely see all the ads. The way I associate that is if there's a crap load of ads before you even get to the actual SERPs, then it may be harder to rank for this. People are putting ad spend behind the words, and that's when it gets harder to show up on that top 10 first page of the Google results. But if you scroll down past those results, you can see other searches around this search. And that's a good way to get those long tail keywords. And then my second thing is Google Search Console. That will tell you all the traffic. It tells you your crawlability of your site. It tells if, your sitemap's set up right. So all those technical things that are part of SEO. And then content. That is the key. Yes, SEO is important, but if you have SEO, but you don't have good content, then you're defeating the whole purpose.
What you're doing mostly is it blog articles? Is it landing pages?
My service starts with an audit. So I'll go through and do an SEO audit, and that's looking at the back end, alt tests, metadata, just making sure those things are there, making sure it's mobile optimized, because that's how the majority of people are searching, seeing if there's any words that the organization is ranking for already. So yeah, finding out what they're ranking for, going through that audit. I look at a very general front end audit. So when I do that, I'm looking for what kind of content do they already have? So do they have a blog? How much content do they have on their landing pages? Are their landing pages trying to do too much? So there wouldn't be an opportunity for you to be able to kind of add some SEO into the content they already have. Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of people maybe don't want to have a lot of landing pages for different parts of their business, but they don't realize that that's where the power of SEO comes in, because if you can talk about something with some length and give it some good content, that's going to help you be a source of information. So you get found and people are also on your site looking. I do recommend to a lot of people having a blog because that's just a way to get content. I'll look at their above the fold optimization. I do a quick check to make sure links are working. If they say contact us, that really does go to a contact us form. So just general things.
And do you provide ongoing help with creating the content too? Or are you coming in at a strategy point and just telling them what they need to be doing?
SEO is usually something that you have to teach people about. They know they need SEO, but they don't understand all the components and why they're important and the power that it could have. So I would say I spend at least half the amount of time doing the SEO research, meeting with them afterwards and going over it and going over what it means.
Yeah. So where does social media fit into all of this?
Yes. So you were asking me about pet peeves. And one of my pet peeves is people trying to be on all the social medias. You can make the case for being super focused, knowing exactly where your audience is, or at least the majority of your audience, because I think sometimes when people think about audience, they want to cast this wide net. There could be someone who finds me on Facebook or someone who finds me on Instagram, but LinkedIn is the place you have to be. And so I think the schedulers have made it easy to just use buckshot. And if you're posting to one, then automatically post to the other. But I really try to recommend that people do one social media and really do it well. The social media is where you repurpose your content from your website.
That's where our clients get stressed out and just fail because it's really hard to be consistent on all of the platforms. So one of the common themes is learning to speak and talk like your client. Do you have any tips for doing that better?
Yes, intuition. Like to me, it's a very intuitive, like I look at their content that they already have and really dissect it and think about their word use and how that they approach things. And this is where you can use outside software to help you, like with the readability of text. I think a good relationship with the client as well, because you're going to learn how they talk and learn what their voice is and how they explain themselves, and just having them talk to you about the topic that you're going to be writing on so that you see their voice in there. But yeah, it can be tricky.
How do you stop overthinking it or trying to overdo it? How do you stop that when it comes to content?
So when I find myself feeling like I'm caring more than my client, that is a good litmus test. When you deal with content creation, it's like you know certain things and you know the best way to do this, but your client sometimes is like, no, I really don't want to have a separate landing page for each one of these services that I provide. And you're like, okay, but that's the best thing to do. And they're like, well, no, we don't want to. I mean, you have to say that's their choice. Reframe your mind and think, am I trying to work harder or am I working harder than they are?
Okay, here's another one that's all of our Achilles heels is getting content from our clients. I mean, you kind of nailed it already. You can't care more than their business. But are there any other like maybe logistical tips you've had that have worked well with you?
I try to source as much as possible. Like when I go into a situation with a client and I feel like I'm not going to be able to source content for them easily, then I make it part of my package where it's a higher price if I am sourcing the content. So if they're willing to provide me the video for reels or images that I need, okay, well, this is this price. But if you need me to source it, it's this price. Then you can always go back to the contract and say, listen, this didn't happen because you were supposed to provide me with this and you didn't. And that's stuff that you learn as you go along. When you have a client who doesn't provide the things you need to be able to post on time, and having that conversation with them ahead of time because they know.
And that can make or break you in this type of role, depending on what platforms you are on, what type of clients. So that realistic expectation, but we need to be able to close tabs in our brain. And I feel like if the client doesn't get it to you when you say you're going to be working on their stuff, close that freaking tab, set up that boundary, and tell them when you're on next.
You show people how to treat you. Put systems in place to hold you accountable to that.
So good. We talk a lot about boundaries in the work group, UDMA school. We talk about that a lot because that can make or break you in your brand.